I'm a very unique case. And it's something that I don't try to like prove to people that my brain's different, but it does work in very different ways.
The digital airwaves, always abuzz with the latest celebrity rebrand, have in recent months been particularly thick with the strange, discordant static emanating from the public metamorphosis of JoJo Siwa. To say it's going about as smoothly as a glitter bomb detonating inside a running microwave might even be an understatement. Just when the collective pop culture consciousness thought it had, perhaps finally pinned down one version of JoJo, the vibrant, perpetually optimistic Nickelodeon queen, or the newly minted queer icon. Suddenly, with the abruptness of a bad jump scare, bam! New hair, a jarring new sound, a bewildering new aesthetic, and an identity crisis so pronounced it practically screams from the rooftops. It's honestly become less of a strategic evolution and more akin to watching someone frantically try on personalities like their bargain bin outfits from a fast fashion app. Rapid, utterly confusing, and with an undeniable whiff of low quality. One moment, she's a rainbow-drenched beacon of LGBTQ plus visibility, proudly waving flags and celebrating her identity. The next, she's subtly, then overtly, suggesting that the very community she championed somehow pressured her into coming out. It's whiplash personified, a dizzying spectacle that leaves audiences, once invested, now simply bewildered. But before we fully unravel the multi-car pileup that is JoJo Siwa version 8.0, a necessary rewind is in order, because this isn't merely a recent flop, this is the culmination of a multi-year identity implosion. A chaotic narrative meticulously cooked up by a branding team who, it would seem, hasn't touched genuine grass since approximately 2016, existing solely within the echo chamber of what they perceive as marketable. The thing is, long before JoJo became a walking, talking PR disaster, long before the controversies and the critiques, she was an undeniable force, a pint-sized glitter grenade detonating on the cultural phenomenon that was Dance Moms. Even as a child, her energy levels were legendary, exceeding the caffeine rush of a Red Bull or 4-drip, her movements precise, if aggressive, her personality undeniable. It was clear, even then, that she was being meticulously primed for stardom, a meticulously crafted prodigy before she could even accurately spell career. Her mother, Jessalyn, wasn't just raising a daughter, she was, with a chillingly effective precision, assembling a child star Voltron, each piece designed for maximum impact and, ultimately, maximal revenue. By the time JoJo transitioned from reality TV sensation to Nickelodeon powerhouse, she had already built a pastel-colored, bow-laden empire. Her distinctive face, often adorned with a massive gravity-defying bow, was ubiquitous, plastered on lunchboxes, toothbrushes, clothing lines, and a seemingly endless array of merchandise. You name it, her face, or at least her signature accessory, was on it. And sure, for anyone over the age of 10, it was more than a little cringe-inducing, saccharine to the point of inducing cavities. But crucially, the kids loved her. They adored the bright colors, the unbridled enthusiasm, the sheer, unyielding positivity. Parents, perhaps not so much, often wincing at the high-pitched screams and relentless energy, but the money was undeniably, unstoppably rolling in, a veritable torrent of revenue, solidifying her status as a bona fide child mogul. Then, as is the inevitable cruel joke of time, she grew up, and suddenly, the meticulously crafted, brightly packaged, sparkly bow girl brand no longer fit. She wanted to shed the layers of glitter and saccharine sweetness. She craved edge, desired coolness, yearned to be perceived as mature, grown, and somewhere in the frantic, chaotic maelstrom of that transition, she irrevocably lost the plot. More critically, she began to hemorrhage the very audience that had built her empire. The children who had faithfully bought her bows now aging out of her demographic, while new, older audiences struggled to connect with her evolving, often contradictory persona. Initially, her pivot seemed promising, even inspiring. She came out publicly as part of the LGBTQ plus community, symbolically chopped her iconic ponytail, embraced a new, more mature look, and positioned herself as what was meant to be a fresh, authentic voice for gay teens and young adults everywhere. For a fleeting minute, she genuinely had the girls, the gays, and the theys in an absolute chokehold. Her candidness, her visibility, and her undeniable platform seemed poised to usher in a new era of genuine representation in mainstream media. But then, in what has now become typical JoJo fashion, she took it too far, pushing the boundaries of self-promotion into the realm of the truly absurd. She began with startling conviction, asserting that she was not just an artist within the queer space, but the outright inventor of gay pop. In a soundbite that became instant meme fodder, she declared, "I want to start a new genre of music," and they said, "What do you want it to be?" And I said, "Well, it's called gay pop." The audacity of the claim was breathtaking. Not Lady Gaga, whose entire career is built on queer anthems and boundary-pushing artistry. Not Elton John, a trailblazer for decades. Not even the legendary Freddie Mercury, whose very existence defied norms and shaped rock with a queer sensibility. No, according to JoJo Siwa, the same girl who once sang about boomerangs and wore candy necklaces like they were battle armor, she was the pioneer. The irony was palpable, and instead of allowing her music to speak for itself, to organically build a new authentic connection with her target audience, she amplified the volume, shouting, "I'm edgy now, I'm mature, I'm groundbreaking," while simultaneously releasing a song titled Karma that sounded less like a daring pop anthem and more like a Black Mirror parody of what a calculated, manufactured pop star should be. The song itself, an aggressively generic pop track, was critically panned for its lack of originality and overproduction. And let's not forget the crucial, damning detail. She didn't even write the song. She had acquired it from someone else, a track previously recorded by another artist, and then presented it as if it were her own, deeply personal, freshly conceived baby. You simply cannot claim to invent an entire genre of music to usher in a new era of artistic expression, and then outsource the very music that's supposed to define it. That's like a chef declaring themselves a culinary visionary while exclusively Uber Eatsing every meal and plating it as their own. The disconnect was stark, blatant, and immediately perceived by a savvy audience. But the true trajectory off the rails began when JoJo, in a series of bewildering public appearances, started to publicly backtrack on nearly every identity she had so vigorously marketed. After meticulously building her entire rebrand on being a loud, proud, and self-identified lesbian, she suddenly hit her audience with a bewildering plot twist. She's not actually lesbian, she's queer. In another soundbite, now infamous for its perceived equivocation, she stated, "I'm not lesbian, I'm queer, and I think that's really cool." This semantic shift, while valid for many within the LGBTQ+ community, felt less like genuine self-discovery and more like calculated damage control. The truly galling part? She later, to the shock and dismay of her LGBTQ+ fan base, implied, if not outright stated, that she only initially came out as lesbian because the LGBTQ+ community pressured her into it. So, let's get this straight. No pun intended, though the irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. One minute she's waving rainbow flags with messianic fervor, proclaiming herself the face of queer youth. The next, she's allegedly caught cheating on her non-binary partner on national television, an act that immediately ignited a firestorm of criticism. And then, seemingly without pause, linking up with a straight male, almost as if she were executing a dramatic, illogical plot twist in a CW teen drama like Riverdale. At this point, it wasn't just confusing, it was whiplash-inducing, the kind that makes your neck ache and then metaphorically file for a lawsuit. Let's dig into the gritty details here, because this is precisely where things devolved into a real mess, real fast. This particular wave of chaos seemed to originate when JoJo decided to join the reality television show Celebrity Big Brother UK, ostensibly as part of her highly publicized mature rebrand. And by mature, the universe, it would seem, interpreted it as chaotic. Because halfway through her stint on the season, while still in a public relationship with her non-binary partner back home, JoJo began overtly, undeniably flirting with a straight male housemate, Chris Hughes. The implications were immediate and severe. Yes, it was messy. Yes, the internet, with its collective, unblinking eye, clocked it instantly. And yes, this was the exact moment when she doubled down on camera, stating unequivocally that she wasn't a lesbian anymore, and that her initial public declaration of being lesbian was due to feeling pressured by the very community she had so loudly embraced. The fallout was swift and brutal, leaving many within the LGBTQ+ community feeling used, betrayed, and deeply disappointed. And as if her personal on-screen drama wasn't chaotic enough, she then attempted to resurrect her floundering music career, dropping a cover of the iconic Kim Carnes hit, Betty Davis Eyes. When I say cover, I mean the song sounded like it was audibly strangled by autotune until it begged for mercy, its soul escaping in digital gasps. The reception was brutal. People genuinely and understandably thought the song was AI generated, or perhaps a deep fake gone horribly wrong. One person with poetic precision remarked that she sounded like a haunted Furby. Another, perhaps more sarcastically, asked if the track was actually an anti-smoking PSA, implying her voice sounded ravaged beyond repair. The comments weren't just savage, they were a masterclass in internet poetry, each one more cutting than the last. And while her TikTok teasers for the song did pull in over 22 million views, a seemingly impressive number, the devil was in the details. Only a paltry 400,000 likes, which sounds decent until you realize that the top 2 comments on the video had more likes than the actual video itself. That's not audience engagement, that's just a digital intervention, a collective online gasp of horrified fascination. But the wildest part in this spiraling narrative, JoJo's not slowing down. Nope, she's doubling down on the chaos, convinced, it seems, that more noise equals more relevance. We're seeing more erratic TikToks, even more chaotic, mismatched outfits that defy explanation, and a steady stream of music that sounds like it was filtered through a malfunctioning vape. Its quality degraded and its message indistinct. Her entire vibe now, as many have observed, is that of a rejected backup dancer from a pride parade in The Sims. A character that tries too hard, misinterprets the assignment, and ultimately fails to connect. The consequences of this strategy are stark. She has demonstrably alienated her core gay fan base, confused the straight ones who were perhaps just curious, and completely lost the child audience that once formed the bedrock of her empire. So, at this point, nobody is watching JoJo Siwa because they genuinely like her music or admire her brand. They're watching because it feels like a very public meltdown, meticulously disguised as performance art, a slow-motion car crash from which you simply cannot avert your gaze. We have quite literally gone from the wholesome aspirational motto of live, laugh, love to the bizarre, disturbing devolution of lick, gyrate, disintegrate. And then, as if the personal and artistic unraveling wasn't enough, came the true scandal, a bombshell dropped by Rolling Stone, exposing a deeply troubling underbelly to her entrepreneurial ventures. The report focused on JoJo's girl group XOMGPOP, a confection of brightly dressed, highly energetic young performers. The allegations were chilling. The children in her girl group were allegedly being overworked, forced to perform while injured, and treated less like budding artists and more like glitter-coated robots in a relentless, profit-driven machine. One particularly horrifying detail emerged. A young girl reportedly danced with a fresh spinal surgery wound, her body pushed to its limits. Another anecdote painted an even grimmer picture, describing a performer who had to slap on a maxi pad to prevent bleeding through her costume mid-show due to the physical toll. The finger of blame, according to the widespread reports, pointed directly at JoJo's mother, JoJo Siwa, who was allegedly behind much of the chaos, reportedly telling these literal children things like, they deserve nothing. A stark, brutal contrast to the empowering, positive message JoJo herself had always projected. So, while JoJo was out there attempting to reinvent herself as the patron saint of gay pop and an icon of self-expression, her burgeoning new brand was simultaneously being exposed for the alleged exploitation of minors. And, let's be honest, at this point, the JoJo and Jocelyn Siwa dynamic is basically a glitter-coated dance mom version of the Kris Jenners of child labor, transforming youthful talent into a commodity, regardless of the human cost. All of this inevitably begs the ultimate pressing question: what exactly is the plan now? Because JoJo's new music is unequivocally flopping. Her once devoted LGBTQ+ fan base has, by and large, checked out, feeling alienated or betrayed. Her overall brand is severely tainted by these exploitation allegations, creating a moral stain that's difficult to scrub clean. And the general public, they're somewhere on a spectrum between profound confusion and outright horror, watching this bizarre spectacle unfold. What the hell is even that? Has become the common refrain. The carefully constructed personas are failing. She's simply not the edgy rebel her team so desperately tried to sell. She's unequivocally no longer the saccharine kid pop princess. And she is certainly not, by any stretch of the imagination, the face of gay pop empowerment she once audaciously claimed to be. So, what we're witnessing isn't a rebrand. It's a slow, agonizing public unraveling of someone who, perhaps, has never truly been given the space to just be themselves, free from the relentless demands of a manufactured image. It's giving career fatigue mixed with a profound identity confusion, with her entire public relations machine seemingly holding on by a single frayed thread. And the worst, most tragic part of this entire saga, none of this truly had to happen. If JoJo, or more accurately, her formidable team, had just taken a genuine beat, paused for reflection, and allowed her to authentically figure out who she truly was, what her genuine artistic voice sounded like, instead of frantically hopping from one jarring aesthetic to the next in a desperate grab for clicks and relevance, then maybe, just maybe, this entire mess wouldn't be so profoundly embarrassing. So yes, JoJo Siwa's rebrand isn't just a disaster, it's a colossal warning label, a cautionary tale for any young star navigating the perilous waters of internet fame and the ravenous demands of public image. JoJo has gone through more abrupt brand phases than a Starbucks holiday cup design, each one fleeting, each one ultimately unsuccessful in solidifying a new lasting identity. But what do you think? After all of this, after the allegations, the musical misfires, and the identity whiplash, can JoJo Siwa truly come back from this public reckoning? Or is this finally her ultimate final form? The Gen Z version of Rebecca Black, but perhaps with significantly worse PR and a trail of controversies far more complex than a viral song about a week. I genuinely don't know the answer, but I'm incredibly eager to hear your thoughts, your theories, and your unfiltered opinions in the comments below. Let's dissect this further. I'll be there, reading through every comment. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one, ready to dive into another fascinating story from the wild world of online personalities.